City. Reality Flickered. By Dylan Page. Chapter 5. 5 days later, at exactly midnight, a series of loud knocks reverberates through my door. I rush out of bed and whip it open, expecting Q. Instead, I'm met by two figures backlit by a bright white light, appearing as featureless, dark silhouettes. I almost scream for some reason before one of the figures speaks, their voice reassuring and calm.
Good evening. Sorry for bothering you at this late hour. I know this is strange, but if you wouldn't mind putting this on, and I shall explain why we are here.
They extend an arm, offering me a small cap lined with something. I look at the two of them confused, but they just wait patiently. Slowly, I slip the cap on. It fits snugly on my head, and makes a crinkling sound when I move. As my eyes adjust to the light, I notice the two figures are wearing similar caps.
That's better.
Figure 1 says, the one who was speaking before.
While wearing this device, all visual, auditory, and cognitive inputs are considered privileged and confidential. No one, whether an individual nor corporate entity, shall have any access to data generated, nor will the use of this jammer be logged in any systems.
They recite the speech as if they've said it 1,000 times before.
Okay.
I say, feeling awkward now instead of frightened.
Who are you?
MediaCorp.
The second figure states sharply.
We're here to take you to the Isofix for your interview.
I can only assume that this is Q's doing, so I say,
Oh, yes, of course. My interview, how could I forget?
If you'll please follow us.
Figure 1 says, ushering me out the door. A rectangular car sits out front, the light casting the two figures in silhouette coming from its headlights. It is made of a shiny, reflective metal and has an attachment on its roof that appears to allow it to ride cables. The entire left side of the thing swings open like an awning, and we climb in. Figure 2 begins to drive. Most pathways in the city are designed for pedestrians, not vehicles, so they maneuver the car slowly and carefully, sometimes pulling off to the side when we approach groups of people, allowing them to pass by unimpeded. We soon reach the cable station and hook up to a line. Then, the windshield and all the windows go black, and we are thrown into darkness. Figure 1 looks back at me.
Just a precaution.
Now I'm certain this is Q's doing, so I sit back and wait. Unfortunately, unlike the carriages, the car does not have gyroscopic stabilizers. I feel every jolt, every lurch, every sharp and aggressive, stomach-churning turn. My head jerks side to side, teeth rattling, vision blurring. The ride lasts only a few minutes, but it feels interminable. We decelerate to a stop, the car's windows become transparent again as the side swings open. I step out into a space that is part garage, part waiting room. The car takes up one side of the room, and on the other, there is a small area with a few comfortable-looking chairs placed around a nice coffee table, and a small kitchen stocked with drinks and snacks. The walls of the place seem to be lined with the same material as the caps. My suspicions are confirmed when Figure 2 strides past me, shedding his cap. He grabs a drink from the fridge and sprawls out on one of the chairs.
You won't be needing that while you're here.
Figure 1 says beside me, hand outstretched. I hand the cap back and ask,
What now?
Figure 1 nods to a door at the side of the room, the only other door in this place aside from the garage.
Just through there. We'll be here to take you home once you're done.
Thank you.
I say. The door leads me into another room that is much smaller and cozier than the garage. The walls are a deep maroon, lined with that peculiar material. On one side, brown leather chairs with tall backs are placed around a cackling fire that brings a comfortable warmth to the room. Next to that, a large couch sits on a soft, fuzzy rug, a glass table before it topped with stationery and writing implements. There is also a bar loaded with snacks, drinks, and vape sticks. It comes as no surprise that this is where I find Q, grabbing for a stick of caffeine. She hears the door shut and turns to face me, a cloud of vapor passing her lips and enveloping her as she does. The sight makes me chuckle.
Hey, Q, good to see you. What's with?
I gesture to the room, the so-called Isofix, and the figures waiting outside in the garage.
All this?
I mouth a word as she says it.
Precautions.
She finishes warming some water, squeezes a lemon into it, and drops in the slice.
You don't have to call me Q anymore, by the way. Especially outside of this room. Might give them reason to think we're continuing with our research. Pyla is fine, Ms. Quinn, but only if you insist. But to answer your question, precautions. That's what this is. The isofix hails from a bygone era, an era where the chip was not yet as pervasive as it is today. A time when privacy was still a concept on people's minds, a concept that they understood and were aware of. It was a very different world, and journalists had to come up with a way to protect their sources. While certain corporations have their opinions on the isofix, it is an honored place amongst my stock. Albeit, more for tradition's sake nowadays over function. Sources seldom require anonymity these days. Crime and corruption supposedly a thing of the past.
So this place belongs to MediaCorp? How'd you convince them to let us use it?
They think you're some whiz from TechnoCorp who is going to give me some juicy details for the next innovation report. I'll spin some of what Mr. Alan Cook said, give him a decontextualized truth, and make it look like you fell short of the hype. I might be reprimanded for being a little overzealous, but nothing worth worrying about.
She moves over to the chairs by the fire, and I join her. I notice a small table between the chairs where a coffee sits waiting for me. I seize it eagerly, battling the remnants of sleep still lingering in my eyes. The chair hugs my body, the warmth of the fire enhancing its embrace. It's the kind of setup that invites hours of uninterrupted conversation. I suppose that's exactly the purpose they had in mind when designing the room. Pyla settles heavily into her chair beside me with a weighted sigh.
We can speak freely here, but let's not rehash what we already know.
Pyla says.
It was hard enough to secure this room as is, and we only have an hour. I doubt I'll be able to get us this place again. Utilizing the isofix twice without producing any compelling story would raise eyebrows. We need to focus on our immediate next steps. We can worry about how we'll communicate with each other later.
Fine by.
I respond.
Any chance you could borrow those caps? That would certainly make things easier.
I've thought about it, but no matter which way I approach it, it seems impossible. Those are kept under a tight watch, and MediaCorp doesn't have a tendency to just lend them out.
Pyla shoots me aside a glance, takes a puff on her stick.
You're still in this, huh?
She asks dryly.
You still want to keep pushing forward?
Yes.
There is no question about it.
Your mom?
She's fine.
I answer, but I know that isn't what Q is asking me. I haven't really thought about what I'm going to do on that front, but I can't stop now. Turning back isn't an option. Not surprisingly, a sly, cunning smile curves Pyla's lips, her gray eyes flickering red and orange hues in the firelight.
Good. And as long as we're careful, as long as we're smart, she'll stay that way. I have to ask, then, how do you feel about splitting up?
I mull it over. The idea makes me nervous, the thought of venturing off on my own, especially since I know that I'm being watched by someone. However, given the circumstances, it would be suspicious to be seen running around the city with Pyla. I say as much to her and add.
But splitting up doesn't do us any good if we don't have any leads. Managed to find anything for us on that end?
Pyla stares into the fire.
I've had a few ideas, though, I must admit, they may come off as a bit desperate. However, I assure you that I've put serious thought into this. Since we know you're being watched, I've given you a task that is a little less obvious. Yet, it may yield some unexpected results. What I'll be taking on is a little more bold.
Bold?
I'm not so sure I like the sounds of that, but undeniably, it does get me a bit excited. Pyla stands up and walks over to the fire, sipping her lemon water. Her back to me, she says.
I'm going to Justice Corp. I'm going to find an officer of the peace. I'm going to report a crime.
A crime?
Yes. A City Corp staff member is out there stalking, harassing, threatening members of the general public.
She says indignantly, though it seems feigned.
It's completely unacceptable behavior. This should not be tolerated in a society such as ours.
You're calling them out.
I conclude. She nods, the bags under her eyes contorting as she smiles deeply.
Exactly. Their response could tip us off to just how deep this goes. In the meantime, I'll be spending time scouring some of the markets of the Fourth Ring. Markets that you wouldn't necessarily want an officer of the peace to catch you roaming. They're barely tolerated by City Corp, but they do their best to stay out of sight and out of mind. You can find many things at these markets. Most importantly, books that aren't available on chip. I'm researching a theory.
That ionize something or other?
I remember Q asking Mr. Alan Cook about it.
Yes. That. I'll tell you more about it once I have something to tell you. Now, you will also be heading to the Fourth Ring, but you are not destined for the markets. My prior subject, the one who passed away, wasn't the only name I'd caught wind of back then. Now, this isn't confirmed or anything, but this guy might have experienced something like your flicker. It might be worth talking to him.
My meeting with Chris San Tristan must seem random. To Pyla's envy, he owns a Vaporium in the Fourth Ring's famous Victory Mall. I'm supposed to shop around before I make my way to his store. I wade through bustling chaos, surrounded by competing hollows, their words clashing over one another in a chaotic din. Aromas assault me from food stalls and perfume kiosks. Strobing lights attack my eyes from the cinemas and the arcades and the amusement parks. A rush of people envelop me on every side, each clambering in different directions. Despite the frenzy, there's an organized dance to the crowd's movements, a choreography that prevents collisions. My purpose here is clear, and I don't linger. I visit a few stores, even try on some clothing. Everything I try on looks great on me, flattering in all the right ways, and I even make a few purchases to solidify my alibi. Once satisfied, I decide that it's time I seek out the Vaporium. Unfortunately, I don't know where it is, so I have to pull up a directory on my chip. I do not search for the Vaporium specifically, but rather, I scan each floor, examining every shop they contain. My eyes do not linger when I find the Vaporium. I continue to search a few more floors before finally closing out of the directory. Feeling excessively cautious, I visit a few more shops on my way up to the 13th floor. Strolling along without fixating on any particular storefront, I begin tapping my pockets, feigning the loss of something.
Where did it go?
I wonder. Alas, it seems that I've lost my vape.
But, oh, would you look at that? There happens to be a Vaporium right there. Lucky me.
I walk up to the store, doing my best to not look out of place, and a hollow flickers to life. A girl and a guy surf a large cloud of vapor, pulling off all kinds of daring and radical stunts. Exciting and driving music accompanies them. I pause and watch them for a few seconds, pretending I'm in no rush. I suppose I'm not, but the anticipation of meeting Mr. Chris San Tristan has been building since Pyla first mentioned him. I finally enter the Vaporium, and I spot him. Behind a display shelf loaded with black tubes, each categorized by colorful signs, he appears the epitome of an ordinary shopkeep. Friendly features that evoke trust. A tousle of hair, intentionally messy, suggesting either vanity or a free spirit. Inviting eyes and a seemingly genuine smile that reveals a colder, more cunning edge upon closer inspection. For a second, I doubt I'm looking at Mr. San Tristan. The man before me looks too ordinary. Yet, he matches the pictures Pyla had shared. I take a quick glance around before approaching the counter. The store is empty aside from us two.
Lucky me.
I think.
Hey there, friend.
Mr. San Tristan says with a grin, leaning over the counter.
I'm Chris. Welcome to Chris Trist Sticks. Say that 10 times fast without stumbling and I'll throw in a free stick with any purchase.
He laughs a friendly laugh that invites me to join in. I make an attempt out of politeness. I want to get on his good side, hoping that will make him more agreeable to answering my questions.
Chris Trist Sticks. Chris Trist Sticks.
I start slowly. I say it a few times before making a show about stumbling over my words. I don't need to act much, as it actually is quite hard to say over and over. We're both laughing now.
How can I help you, friend? What sort of feelings are we feeling today?
I have to get something to avoid being suspicious, so I start off by saying,
2 sticks of caffeine.
I can give those to Pyla later.
And 1 stick of Focus 26.
I can also give that to Pyla later. Maybe she can smell it to see if it really was what Mr. Alan Cook was puffing on. That wouldn't really help us in any way, but I need to buy something.
That'll be it then?
Chris asks.
No. I'm looking for something else, but I don't really know what I'm looking for.
Chris flashes a smile befitting only that of a salesperson.
Friend, half the people come in here don't know what they're looking for. Give me a place to start and let's see if I can't find what it is you desire.
I lean across the counter, meeting Chris in the middle conspiratorially.
Something really out there, you know? Something that makes me question my reality. Something that gives me some brief, cosmic flash of insight. Or something like that, I don't know. You have anything like that?
Chris's face falls flat, his brow furrows and his forehead wrinkles.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He says coldly. I'm trying to broach the subject gently, but I've already upset the man. But I have to press. I can't leave with nothing.
Really? Because my friend told me that you had this wild experience, and I was just hoping to get whatever it was that you had.
The tubes inside of the counter rattle as Chris's balled-up fist crashes down onto the countertop.
For fuck's sake.
He roars.
You tell one person and then everyone with a goddamn chip knows. I should have just kept my mouth shut. Never said a word.
I raise my hand apologetically.
Hey, look, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I was just looking for...
Wait a second.
He cuts me off sharply.
They said that they would make this go away. Who are you? Who sent you? Why are you here?
He shoots the questions at me rapid fire.
Mr. San Tristan, if you'll allow me to explain.
He narrows his eyes at me and gasps silently, taking a small, tepid step back from the counter.
You're with them, aren't you? Why are you here? Look, I haven't said anything, I swear. I still see, I still smell, I still taste, I still hear, I still feel. I swear it.
Speaking frantically, he's pressed his back up against the wall.
Mr. San Tristan.
I say again, trying hopelessly to get a word in.
Please calm down and allow me.
If somebody talked, it wasn't me.
Chris's eyes are beginning to tear up, and he sounds like he's pleading. I'm just standing here looking at him, my mouth moving up and down uselessly, dumbstruck.
I swear it. I see. I smell. I taste. I hear. I feel. It wasn't me. It would have had to have been Coco.
Coco?
Yes.
A wave of relief coats his voice, as if he's found a crack into talking himself out of something. What that something is, I haven't a clue.
Yes. It was Coco. Coco Cora. If somebody talked, that's who it was. You have to believe me.
I do. But that's not.
Chris suddenly pulls in close again, his voice becoming even, on the edge of angry.
Then get the hell out of here. I paid my dues, but now, I see. I smell. I taste. I hear. I feel. I don't want anything to do with this anymore. Whatever you are investigating, leave me out of it. The data will clearly show that I've got nothing to do with whatever this is.
I stand there staring at Chris, feeling awkward more than anything, but also feeling terrible for freaking him out so badly. I don't know what to say to diffuse the situation. He obviously thinks I am someone I'm not, so I simply and very calmly state,
Thank you, Mr. San Tristan. You've been incredibly helpful today. I can assure you that you won't be bothered further.
Then I turn and leave. The meeting hadn't gone exactly how I had wanted it to. It actually hadn't gone at all how I wanted it to. During the 2 interviews I've conducted so far, I've barely said more than a dozen words. It wasn't entirely useless, however. I have another name. Coco Cora. And from the sounds of it, she may be more receptive to talking than Mr. Chris San Tristan was. I'm riding the cables, taking an extended tour of the 4th ring while I contemplate my next steps. The carriage glides through the summits of towering, spire-like structures topped with domes resembling dancing flames. Their exteriors are covered in red and white tiles, crafting grandiose mosaics, while the domes sport vibrant, spiraling patterns. Densely clustered together, they create the illusion of colossal trunks supporting a peculiar canopy. I suppose I should go home, wait to hear from Pyla. It would be the cautious thing to do. Then again, I don't know how long it will be until we can talk again. She made it clear that the isofix wouldn't be an option anytime soon. How long am I supposed to just sit and wait? And now, there's this name, Coco Cora.
Coco Cora. Who are you, Coco Cora?
I wonder. I could pull her up on the chip, get some basic info, perhaps figure out a way to meet her. On the other hand, maybe I should just go home, wait for Pyla. The forest of buildings continues to whip by me, as it has been for the past hour or so. What harm could there be in looking up her name? One has a strange, unexplainable encounter at a vaporium. Some man is yelling a stranger's name at you. A curious person would investigate, right? Pulling her up on the chip, there's nothing suspicious about that. It wouldn't indicate that I'm still delving into what appears to be an unfolding conspiracy. But then again, I suppose I should go home, wait for Pyla. I find myself alone in an elevator, ascending one of the fourth ring's massive spires. I wipe my moist palms against my pants before using them to wipe away the sweat coating my face. I'm breathing deeply, trying to control my nerves.
I really should go home. Wait for Pyla.
The breathing actually helps calm me down a bit. I'm sweating less profusely now, though, I'm still sweating. It's a small victory. A small chime announces my arrival and the elevator doors part, delivering me into the flame-shaped dome atop the spire. This particular dome houses a spacious spa. The lobby welcomes me with soothing fragrances of vanilla and lavender. The lights are muted and warm, while an ethereal, ambient music, toned gongs full of rich overtones, permeates and vibrates the air. A woman draped in flowing white robes greets me as I step out of the elevator. She hands me a glass of cucumber-infused ice water, and utters in a tranquil whisper,
"Please remove your shoes and follow me."
We walk barefoot across a path of fine, soft white sand. Complicated patterns and geometric shapes have been raked into the sand on either side of the path. Gray stones are scattered asymmetrically amid the designs, evoking a sense of stillness and motion, tension and release. I am guided to the front desk, where a girl with two large silver needles piercing the bun atop her head gazes up at me.
Good afternoon and welcome to Oasis. How may I help you?
She whispers with a pleasant smile.
I was hoping I could get a massage.
I say, lowering my voice to match the atmosphere.
Of course.
Her eyes go distant as she consults her chip.
And do we know what type of massage we would like today?
I stutter, a little out of my depth.
A regular one. It doesn't matter, but I was wondering if I could request a specific masseuse?
Of course. Name?
Coco Cora?
The girl's eyes flick back and forth as she reads something, and she says,
Coco has a spot open in 2 hours. If you'd like, I can schedule you in. You'd be granted access to some of our other amenities, which you can enjoy while you wait.
An inner voice is still screaming,
Go home. Wait for Pyla.
Regardless, I stifle it and force out,
Sounds lovely.
I recline in the steam room, thinking I should go home. I sit in the dry sauna, thinking I should wait for Pyla. I step into the shock box, frigid air nipping at my skin.
Go home.
My mind urges. I lower myself into the steaming water.
Wait for Pyla.
Swimming laps, each stroke echoes the debate.
Home.
Stroke.
Wait.
Stroke. I take a steam shower.
Go home.
I take an ice shower.
Wait for Pyla.
I take a regular shower.
Why are you still here?
If spas were meant to make one relax, Oasis was failing to deliver. The constant ringing of the ethereal gongs only intensifies the suspense in my mind. I notice I have only a few more minutes until my massage with Ms. Cora. I have only a few minutes left to decide if I'm going home to wait for Pyla. I retreat to the steam room for my final contemplation, finding it a good place to clear my head. The door slides open and I freeze. Amidst the mist, lounging casually on the bench with a towel around its waist, is the hot dog. I blink and he's gone, as if he'd never been there at all, as if my brain was just spotting patterns in the misty haze and filling them in. I'm aware that I've been growing increasingly paranoid since I entered Oasis. Maybe my brain was manifesting visions of that paranoia. Maybe. But maybe it's a sign that I should go home and wait for Pyla. Maybe it's a sign that they are onto us. However, if that is the case, then the damage is already done. These people didn't seem like the type to dole out warnings twice. I feel a pit develop in my stomach, but I resolve myself. I've made my decisions. It doesn't matter to them if I meet with Ms. Cora or not. All that matters to them is the fact that I even came. With that in mind, I step into the steam room to wait out my time, sitting in the spot where I'd seen the hot dog sitting.
Just the haze.
I think hopefully, optimistically. I take in a deep breath of the steam.
Just the haze playing tricks on your eyes.
The door to the room slides open and somebody whispers.
Excuse me, Winding Dutch. I'm Coco Cora, your masseurs. If you please follow me, we're ready to begin.
I yelp as Ms. Cora wraps her arm around my neck. She sat on my back, her full weight pinning me to the table.
Give me one good reason I shouldn't break it, motherfucker.
I'm choking, gargling on spit, frothing at the mouth. She lets up just a bit and I manage to croak out.
I'm not with them. I'm sorry. Please, I didn't mean to bring it up. I'm sorry. I'm not with them.
It's futile, as she tightens her grip around my throat again.
Quit begging. You're the one who came to me. Now listen up, and listen good, because I'm only saying this once. I didn't talk. I see. I smell. I taste. I hear. And goddammit, I fucking feel. I know Santrison didn't talk, and I highly doubt any of the others did either. So why are you here?
Without waiting for an answer, she continues.
I should kill you for bothering me again like this, what you people did to me. But I won't. You're not worth the trouble it would cause. However, if I ever see you again, and you don't have hard data to back up your claims, I won't think twice.
She releases me, jumps off of my back, and storms out of the dark room without letting me say another word. Gongs ring in my ears, vibrating the air. I roll off the table and hastily put my robe back on, desperate to leave this place as swiftly as possible. A week has slipped away, and my routine has become a monotonous loop of work, visits with batch mother, and secluded nights at home. My daily visits with mom have become my anchor since the unsettling encounters with Mr. Chris San Tristan and Ms. Coco Cora. I'd rushed straight over to mom's after my visit to Oasis. So far, the City Corp man's threat remains unfulfilled. However, I sense the strain of worry is starting to affect mom. She can tell that something is up with me, always able to pick up on my emotional currents. She can tell that my worry and anxiety is deeper than usual, which in turn only intensifies her own worry. I know better than most how that can affect someone, and I think I see subtle signs that hint towards her stress being worse than she lets on. She still dances, but only when I'm present. I no longer catch her through the window waltzing with a lost love. Her food is still amazing, yet it is missing that extra special little something that really makes it taste like home. She sounds just a touch more tired compared to normal, a diminished vigor and assurance, failing to evoke the usual nostalgic warmth. I don't only attribute this to worry. I know that age is catching up with her. Given her stock, she likely still has a good decade left in her, at least, but she is well past the age where one begins to deteriorate. The pace from here on out will only increase rapidly, and her energies and passions will fade out into monotony, until she is ready to embrace death. Each departure from her side stirs a hint of fear, a silent dread that the next time I visit, I might discover something unspeakable has befallen her. However, my presence seems to do more harm than good lately, so I attempt not to overstay my welcome. I'm walking home through Round Square, rainbows glittering in golden evening light, when Pyla messages me.
Wanna grab some lunch next week? Found a good spot near my place.
I stare at the semi-transparent text, uncertain.
You sure that's a good idea?
I ask, not sure how else to put it.
Yeah.
Pyla responds. After a pause, she adds.
We put all that stuff behind us, but that doesn't mean we can't still hang out. If anyone were checking, they'd only see two people engaging in innocent, good-natured conversation. Because that's all I'm looking for here.
Maybe some other time.
I reply. After my day in the fourth ring, I feel like I need to let the heat cool, as Pyla would say, before considering lunch. A few seconds later, I read.
Then the week after, that work?
I sigh, knowing Pyla won't relent until plans are set.
Yep, sounds great. As long as it's not hot dogs.
Noodles.
Pyla replies, overly chipper, putting on a good show.
Great. You can meet me at my place. We can have a drink before we head over. See you then.
I'm lounging on mom's couch after my shift, waiting for her to return from the market for our evening meal. I'm idly gazing up at the ceiling, not thinking about anything in particular, when a gentle knock disrupts the quiet. I bolt upright, jumping to my feet, springing to attention. I marched to the door stiffly, trying my best to stay quiet.
Is this it?
I think.
Has the City Corp man finally come? Come to carry through on his ominous threat? No.
I try to convince myself, breathing hard. It couldn't be him. The man had threatened my mother, and she was currently away. Nevertheless, every muscle tenses as I reach the door and cautiously peer through the peephole. Everything loosens in an instant. It's just Tanya, Mom's friend, holding a basket filled with delectable treats. I open the door and she gives me a smile befitting her stock as a batch mother, radiating a genuine warmth and inherent love.
Hello.
She croons.
Didn't expect to see you here. Just wanted to drop this off.
She hands me the basket. I look down at it.
Thanks.
Tanya crosses her arms, still smiling, but now wearing an expression of mild concern.
So, how's she doing, huh?
What's that?
Your mom? How's she doing? She's sick, right? I haven't heard from her in a little over a week, so I just assumed.
Oh, of course.
I reply quickly, chuckling a bit.
Of course, thank you for asking. No, Mom is doing fine.
Well, may I talk to her?
I'm stumbling to keep up with my words, they spill out before my thoughts even form.
What I mean is, that she's been feeling better every day, but she's not entirely through the thick of it yet. She's still a bit tired. I'll let her know you stopped by, though, and I'll make sure she gets this.
I hold up the goodie basket and try to give Tanya the most authentic smile I can muster. Tanya stands with her arms crossed, waiting, as if expecting more. Eventually, the concern never leaving her face, she says,
Well, thank you, then. Tell her to reach out, if you would.
I bring the fruit basket inside, place it on the coffee table, and settle back onto the couch. Instead of staring at the ceiling, I'm now transfixed by this basket of goodies. My mind is racing as I stare at the thing, 1,000 thoughts come and gone by the time I take a breath. A palpable pressure begins to push in on me. I need to make a decision. If only I knew what this basket of goodies meant.
What's going on with Mom lately?
I rise swiftly, snatch the basket, and leave Mom's module. I head 2 blocks away, seek out a trash bin behind a convenience store, and toss the thing. I'm back just a few minutes before Mom gets home.
Hey, Mom.
I say warmly, giving her a hug as she comes in. Yet, I scrutinize her, studying every detail of her face, every nuance in her expression, every subtlety in the way she moves and carries herself.
How was your day?
After taking the long way around the concourse, hoping to avoid hubby's dancing, unsettling hot dog, I step out of the elevator and find myself in the dimly lit foyer leading to Pyla's front door. I knock, and a moment later, Pyla's muffled voice reaches me from behind the door.
Hey, let's have that drink in just a second. Do me one favor first. Close your eyes. I mean it. Make sure they are shut.
Knowing better than to question Pyla's methods at this point, I obediently squeeze my eyes shut.
Now feel for the coat rack, under the coat.
I fumble around until my hand locates the carved wood pole. I tap at it for a moment before I find the coat. I knock it to the ground, and my hand lands on something. Judging by the way it crinkles when I pick it up, I suspect I know what it is. I take the cap and slide it on my head.
It's on. Can I open my eyes now?
I hear the door open and take that as confirmation. Pyla already has her cap on.
These things working?
I ask cautiously.
I think so. All you're supposed to do is put them on.
Good.
I say.
How long do we have to talk before it becomes suspicious?
2 hours, maybe 3, tops.
That's a lot better than I was expecting. I stride past Pyla, stomp into her office, and plop down onto her couch, settling in for a nice and long, but most importantly, discreet chat.
How'd you get these?
I gesture to the caps.
I thought you said it would be next to impossible to get our hands on them.
Things have unraveled.
Pyla claps her hands together, then presents them, holding them out as if she's handing me something, then lets them drop in something like exasperation.
In unexpected ways. I've had to twist some things in ways I had not anticipated and had scarcely thought through. So far, at least, it seemed to have worked for my benefit.
Explain.
I demand, no longer willing to be kept in the dark. The stakes were starting to feel too high.
We have the time.
I filed my report with Justice Corp. I reported that City Corp man.
And
I was met with a very flippant officer of the peace who didn't seem to have the wits about him to understand the gravity of my claims.
Seeing how annoyed she is now, I could only imagine how she must have been with that officer. I almost felt sorry for them.
Nevertheless, he took my report. It's been stuck in processing ever since.
is that abnormal?
I ask. I don't know anyone who has ever had to file a report with Justice Corp.
Incredibly,
Pyla replies definitively.
somebody doesn't want that report documented.
And this relates to the caps. How?
Well, I thought if I was being bold, why not be bold? I brought the story to some of my colleagues at MediaCorp. Some, of course, thought I was full of shit. Others, fortunately for us, assumed that this was the big story I was working on, the reason I requested the isofix. I did nothing to let them believe otherwise. Then they start coming to me.
Pyla lets out a huff, sounding pleased with herself.
They want more details. A City Corp staff member threatening the public. Why, it's a scandal.
But of course, there are no more details to offer.
I say.
What then?
I told them as much. Said my source feared for their safety. Said that they refused to come back to the isofix, but that they also refused to talk without the protection it offered. Told them that even if we could accommodate something like that, there's likely little my source knows that they haven't already told me. There's no pressure. We can take our time with these caps, tell MediaCorp nothing, and all is well.
That does seem quite fortunate.
I say, though an undercurrent of wariness taints my words. I've always been skeptical of good things, and partnering with Pyla hasn't exactly eased that skepticism. Despite my reservations, she doesn't seem concerned, so I attempt to push the nagging thought from my mind.
And how about your research? Ionized somethings.
Yes, ionized somethings.
Pyla takes a moment, likely contemplating how to summarize 2 weeks' worth of reading in a concise, quippy, impactful way.
Let's just say my theory is developing, but I really need to talk to someone who knows what they are talking about in order to know if it holds any weight.
Desperation creeps into my voice.
Where are we going to find that? Outside of each other, we can't trust anyone we talk to.
Pyla takes a long drag from her caffeine stick and exhales a cloud of vapor that obscures her face.
Shady markets yield shady stories and even shadier rumors. But we'll get to that. Enough about me for now. Chris San Tristan, was he like you? How'd it go?
It was interesting.
I mumble, cringing and clenching my jaw as I think back on that day.
Someone has already gotten to him. He thought I was one of their representatives.
He mentioned who?
No. But, it's them.
It doesn't really need to be said at this point.
They somehow coaxed him into silence. He wouldn't dare say a word to me about anything. Seemed awfully frightened. Scared out of his mind actually.
Did he say anything useful at all?
I'm stalling, buying time before I tell her. I don't know how she will react, but I doubt she'll be happy.
Nothing really, though. It sounds like there are maybe others out there. I don't know how many. I think they're all being silenced somehow.
Others?
Pyla asks. Her eyes narrow and I can tell she senses that there is more to the story. Now I'm forced to disclose the rest.
Yes, he mentioned one in particular. Coco Cora, a masseuse.
Pyla pulls out a chair from her cluttered table and sits, stacks of books and piles of paper standing high next to her. The look on her face, I can tell she knows the answer before she even asks the question.
What did you do?
I went to visit her.
My knees waver as I'm overcome with an unwarranted amount of shame. What I did was stupid, yes, but I meant well.
I went to talk to her.
When?
A few hours after Chris San Tristan mentioned her.
Pyla pinches the bridge of her nose and squeezes her eyes shut.
God damn it.
She mutters under her breath, sounding as if she's trying to keep it together.
So, what happened?
Miss Cora was.
Shame turns into embarrassment as I remember squirming underneath Ms. Cora's weight, her arm wrapped around my neck, ready to snap it like a twig.
Less helpful. It wasn't worth the effort.
Not with that.
She crosses her arms in a scolding manner.
I mean, you know. How's your mom?
She's good. Well, at first, she seemed perfectly fine. But now, I'm not so sure. I can't quite put my finger on it. There are little things that seem ever so slightly off, ever so slightly different. It's so minuscule that I'm worried I'm imagining things, if that isn't the story of my life. Aside from that though, she's alive and well, I guess.
So you don't think they are onto us?
I think back to the hot dog appearing before me for a split second in the steam room, wondering again at what it could have meant. The hollow started stalking me around the same time as the MediaCorp man, but how could I explain seeing it in a place that had no tech capable of producing a hollow? Whether it was some sort of message from them or a trick on my eyes, I don't know, so I answer.
I don't know. I haven't seen the MediaCorp man since after our meeting with Alan Cook, and aside from these small peculiarities with Batch Mother, everything has been normal. Any reason to think you've been noticed?
Not that I'm aware of. Though I've visited some seedy places, I've made it look as if I've pivoted my research to the history of architecture. Picked up a few too many books that I will never read.
She says regretfully.
But it should have kept me off of their radar.
Then, it sounds like we might be okay?
Pyla rises from her chair and walks behind me, going to stand in front of her wall of windows. I remain seated on the couch. Our backs to each other, I hear her puff on her vape and the patter of her feet as she begins to pace.
What something sounds like and what something is can often be two very different things. Though, I suppose you are right. It does currently seem like we might be okay.
So are you going to tell me about this shady rumor then?
I hear Pyla spin around to face me, but I keep sitting straight with my back to her.
In due time.
She replies quickly and sharply.
I just need to figure out how I'm going to visit him without them knowing about it.
You're not going to visit him,
I state. I turn to face Pyla.
We are. And you've already sorted out the how of it all.
She looks at me blankly, takes a drag from her stick, and shrugs. I smugly point to my head, at the cap I'm wearing. Her eyes go wide.
We can't. Do you know how much trouble I'd be in if they found out I took these outside of my house?
When do you need to get these back to MediaCorp by?
Later this evening.
Pyla answers reluctantly.
If we get them back in time, then, there'd be no way of knowing where these things have been. Isn't that the whole point of them?
Well, chips don't register them.
Pyla says, scratching at her chin as she mulls over the idea.
It's not like the eyes of others could give us away. We just have to hope that nobody from MediaCorp sees us with them on, but we can be discreet and strategic with when we use them.
I could continue to let her ruminate, but I know Pyla well enough now to know when she's come to a decision.
Tell me about this shady rumor, Q.
I say with a smirk. Chapter 6. Pyla and I ride the cables, caps tucked away in our back pockets, chatting about how we don't feel like having noodles today. No, not noodles. Something fancier, perhaps a place in the Fifth Ring. Oh yes, the Fifth Ring boasts some of the finest restaurants in the city. Harmony Piazza, in particular, is renowned for its culinary experiences far and wide. The cables now run well below the tops of the towering buildings. Great, grand structures standing well over 100 stories tall, all glossy marble and glassy obsidian and polished gemstone and shiny metal. Epic vaulted ceilings, breathtaking stained glass, striking flying buttresses, towering towers, many so tall they vanish into dramatic, painterly clouds. It seems an odd place to find Pyla's shady rumor, so shiny and spick and span. But then again, find me a place in the city that isn't like this. The closest I've found so far is Mr. Wilbasso's bar, and even that was nothing to look down on. That was part of the problem. We ride till we've nearly left the Fifth Ring for the Sixth before disembarking our carriage. Once on solid ground, we head off on the most direct route to Harmony Piazza. We walk that route for a good few minutes before we glance around, duck behind a wall at the end of a street corner, and quickly slip on the caps.
The quicker we do this, the better.
Pyla cautions again. I nod, looking her in the eyes, making sure she knows I understand. Then, we rush off in the opposite direction, heading for the border, the space that sits between the Fifth and Sixth Ring. Border areas are designated for the less savory aspects of society. My roadkill waste disposal plant, for example, is situated between the First and Second Ring. Things that smell, things that make a lot of noise, things that would otherwise disturb the peace and beauty of everyday life are relegated to these borders when possible. However, the buildings and spaces are still designed to be as beautiful and aesthetically pleasing as possible, as impressive as anything else found in the city.
But how beautiful can a roadkill waste disposal factory truly be?
I wonder.
Not exactly glamorous.
I believe Pyla had once said when referring to my stock. We hurry as quick as we can without drawing attention to ourselves, moving toward the border to search for Pyla's shady rumor. To search for a man people have called the delivered, the forsaken, the visionary, the cursed fool. Pyla had gone on, listing name after name, but I couldn't remember the rest of them. We search for a man who has dubbed himself the true sight. A building that has tall stacks with thin, gentle smoke rolling out of its chimneys sits next to a meat processing factory. I don't know if the building with the stacks is a roadkill waste disposal plant, but it seems likely, as my workplace is also situated near a meat processing factory. I don't have time to give that much thought as Pyla presses on ahead. We are supposed to be getting close. The meat processing plant is supposed to sit next to a small stream, which Pyla quickly locates. Downstream a few minutes is an old barn which used to house livestock. It hasn't been in use for a long time, but many who work in the area enjoy having a picnic around the rustic, quaint, and charming barn during their breaks. This barn is where Pyla's shady rumor was born. Some claim to have seen a frightening man in the area. A man wearing tattered and dirty rags, his body filthy, his face grimy and caked with dirt. Skinny as a skeleton, lanky and bony, his head too large for his body and completely bald. A black blindfold wrapped tight around his eyes. It all sounded like some old fairy tale to me, yet here I am, following Pyla into the clutches of this ominous, dastardly figure. A small stone bridge takes us over the stream and delivers us into a meadow laden with blossoming flowers. Everywhere I look is splotches of violet, lilac, mauve, and lapis. In the middle of it all is the most picturesque barn you could ever imagine, painted red with white trim, weathered without looking neglected, a window above hanging open with a small tuft of hay peeking out, a slight tilt that denotes its advanced age, but the thing still looks strong and sturdy as ever.
He lives in the barn?
I ask, examining the thing. Pyla continues on, wading through the meadow, knee-deep in flowers.
They didn't really say, but I doubt it. I suspect he lives somewhere behind it.
There is an expanse of woods just behind the barn. Tall, thick trees packed densely together, thick brush on the floor.
Let's knock around here for a bit.
Pyla shouts back at me from over her shoulder.
See if we luck out, and he shows up. We find nothing after a bit.
Into the forest.
I finish her thought reluctantly. I gulp and look into the forest again. Going in there alone, with only Pyla by my side, chasing a shady figure from a shady fairy tale. I'm starting to regret agreeing to lunch with Pyla today.
It really is beautiful, isn't it?
Pyla says, gesturing around us.
It really is.
I answer absently, my tone lacking any conviction. It's just more golden sunlight filtered through whispering leaves. It's just the vivid, chaotic yet intentional, hyper detail that nature offers.
It's all just a roadkill waste disposal plant.
I think grimly. I can't take in the beauty of nature right now. I'm too on edge. We're deep in the forest, far from anyone, and the last thing we want to do is use our chips. We are truly and utterly isolated. Yet, there are sounds everywhere. The wind in the leaves, the groaning of trunks, the ground beneath our feet, the occasional crunch of a twig or leaf. And every sound makes me think I can hear somebody. Someone, maybe, trying to sneak up on us. My neck is getting tired from my head constantly swiveling around. I think even Pyla is getting a little nervous. She's trying to distract herself by treating this like a leisurely hike. I can't deny, I wouldn't mind feeling distracted right now. Quietly, I slowly say,
when we find this true sight, I'm just wondering, what are we hoping he can tell us?
Hard to say.
Pyla responds, pausing to take in her surroundings before we push on.
What I know about him is varied and unreliable, so it will depend on what winds up being true. From what I understand, however, is that if we do come across him, he won't like that we've sought him out. We'll have to make it very clear that we're using isofix technology. This guy's old-fashioned.
Privacy?
I ask, vaguely familiar with the term after Pyla mentioned it to me.
You could say he values it.
All right, that's enough. Both of you stop right there.
A voice calls out, coming from behind us. It sounds incredibly close. Pyla and I freeze simultaneously. A man steps out from behind a tree shockingly close to us. I haven't a clue as to how he got so close without being heard. There's no doubt it is the true sight. He matches the description to the letter, only the rumors had forgotten to mention something. The true sight carries a crude bow and arrow, and he has it aimed right at us, the string drawn back tight. Our hands quickly shoot high above our heads and Pyla is nervously calling out.
Excuse me, are you the true sight?
The name's Faro Jakob, but you may call me the true sight.
His response is casual yet firm.
We've been looking for you.
Unfortunately for you, most who come into these woods looking for me don't wind up leaving. I don't know which corporation you represent, but whichever one it is, my position is clear. You find me, you get the drop on me, you kill me. If you can't do that, then leave me alone. I'm done talking. You folk ain't got nothing worth saying.
He spits, then pulls back on the bow a bit harder, his aim steadying.
We're not with the corporations.
I jump in urgently.
In fact, I believe our interests are aligned with yours, Mr. True Sight. We work against them.
I openly state for the first time in my life. His grip on his bow does not relax.
Doesn't matter. You're chipped. Cause of you, they can hear me, they can see me. I want no part of that.
We are chipped, but the caps.
I plead.
The caps.
Pyla explains more calmly.
Please take a look at our caps. Don't you recognize what these are? I thought someone with your interests would be aware of these things. They contain isofix tech. The two of us are completely invisible right now. As invisible as you're supposed to be.
The true sight starts to laugh, quietly at first, but then louder. It's a dry, cackling, unnerving laugh and I'm relieved when it cuts off.
Look at your cap. You want me to look at your cap?
He chuckles again, takes a large step towards us, and finally lowers his bow. Reaching up with one hand, he lifts the black blindfold from his eyes.
Why certainly, let me take a look.
And he starts to cackle again. Pyla and I gasp. Where his eyes should be, the true sight has two black festering pits, raw and red around the edges. I have to force myself not to puke as saliva rushes to fill my mouth. Pyla is pale as bone next to me. The true sight replaces his blindfold, his laughter still dying out. Then, he waves a flippant hand through the air, his voice too casual, and says,
But you've read me correctly, ma'am. I'm very aware of the caps you referred to. And I don't need eyes to know that you do not lie. You wear these very caps upon your head. A most interesting and curious turn of events, I must admit.
We seek an audience with you, Mr. True Sight.
Pyla says. She sounds like she is trying to pick her words carefully, but she is also not certain on how to approach this strange, rugged man.
We mean no harm. We only seek your knowledge. We tread on your territory and wish not to impose, but we would not have sought you out if this were not of the utmost importance.
The true sight leans on his bow, considering this for a moment, his bald, blindfolded head pointed up, staring unseeingly into the canopy above. Abruptly, he spins on his heel and begins to trot away, moving with a grace and ease that catches me off guard. He sucks his teeth and sharply orders,
Follow me. That's what this is all about.
The true sight says after Pyla has given him a brief rundown as to why we are here. We're still trudging through the forest, taking a winding and confusing path, the brush only becoming denser and harder to pass, the terrain more uneven and hilly.
I see then, why you sought me out.
He sounds reluctant to admit it.
I suppose I indeed have a thing or two to say that you may find valuable, though, I suppose that depends on the questions you choose to ask.
He stops at the foot of a hill, a tall round mound protruding from the ground, chooses a bush that looks just like all the others, and shoves it aside, revealing a small wooden doorway. I have to keep reminding myself that the true sight is blind, as his actions are so sure and precise. He pushes open the door and steps down through it, entering the base of the hill. He beckons us to follow. Pyla and I share a quick look before we're off after him. We enter a large, cozy cavern, the earthen ceiling domed and round, following the contours of the hill over top of us. It's obvious that this is where the true sight lives, though, it's unlike any home I've ever seen before. All of the furniture is crude and simple. It looks handmade. The ground is nothing but a layer of compact soil. A light haze fills the air as we kick up dust. The lighting is dim and dark, but I'm just happy there is lighting at all. There is a mattress crammed off to the side. It is a lumpy mess placed directly on the ground. It appears to be stuffed with leaves and feathers of some sort. A fire, the chimney leading somewhere unseen, gently crackles away in the corner. A few cuts of cheese and raw meat sit on a board next to it. The true sight hangs his bow on the wall near the entrance, next to a hatchet, a dagger, and a few other weapons that I'm sure he refers to as tools. The distinction does nothing to make me feel comfortable around the things. He goes to sit at a crooked table in the center of the room, but realizes there is only one chair. He grabs two others that are ill-fitted to the table, then we gather and sit.
I would offer you something, but out here, I have to work hard for everything I come by. Won't survive by just giving it away.
The true sight grumbles.
Fine, bye.
Pyla reassures him.
We didn't come here to eat.
I add.
Then let's get to it. Why did you come here?
We have questions for you. Questions I think only you can answer. Unfortunately, all I know about you is from second-hand stories, prone to exaggeration and the occasional untruth. If you could maybe tell us a little about yourself, how you came to wind up here, it could help me to better contextualize the information we share with each other.
That makes sense.
The true sight replies, yet he adds nothing further. He just sits there, blindfolded, face staring straight ahead.
Pyla
clears her throat. I see her reach into her pocket for her vape. She fiddles with it for a moment, but does not pull it out.
Can you see?
I ask abruptly, blurting the question out on a whim. The true sight laughs his chilling laugh.
Need I show you the remains of my peepers again? Gouged them out with my own hand. I did. That's how I know the job's done right.
Can you smell?
I ask. The true sight leans forward ever so slightly, but has no response.
Can you taste? How about here?
He tilts his head my direction, and I swear I can feel his gaze on me. The glare from the fire gently glows on his smooth pate.
Mr. Pharaoh Jacob.
I say.
Do you feel?
Pyla is looking at me, not quite sure what to make of my line of questioning, but I'm not paying attention to her. The true sight continues to stare me down, as if two eyes were hidden behind the blindfold. After a few seconds, he cracks a smile. A grim, conniving, knowing smile.
No!
He says, licking his lips.
I don't suppose I do.
Well, we do, I think. We're both still caught up in this game. This illusion. But we're looking for a way out.
We're looking for some answers, at least.
Pyla clarifies.
Was it the eyes?
I ask, curiosity taking me.
Is that what freed you? Taking your own eyes?
The problem isn't the eyes.
The true sight says quietly.
Any more than the mouth, the nose, the ears, the nerves.
He starts to tap at his temple.
The problem is in the brain. People ain't able to think clearly these days.
He tilts his head around, and in the firelight, I notice a scar on the side of his scalp. A jagged line, the skin raised and red.
My God, you had it removed.
Pyla says, sounding as if she can't believe it, her jaw hanging agape.
You really did it.
The true sight just passes a hand over his scalp in response, that knowing smile still stuck on his frightening, grimy, gaunt face. Staring at this man, I realize that I am not frightened nor repulsed by him. I have empathy for him. In fact, I think I might respect him. I am just being confronted with something so vastly and shockingly different from anything I'd ever known that I don't know how to react. However, thinking about it, I probably share more in common with the true sight than I'd like to admit.
Did it hurt?
I ask. Something in his posture changes, though I'm not quite sure how to read the shift. After a second, the true sight, his voice as gentle as I've heard it so far, says.
Yes, I had to force a doctor to do the procedure, a procedure that's never before been done. Didn't want them to give me any anesthesia, but it didn't matter. I'd pass out from the pain in less than a minute. They got the thing, but it's a sloppy job. They hacked away a few pieces they didn't need to, and now I can't smell. I can't remember the names of any of my batch siblings. And I can't remember what number comes after 26.
I can't tell if the last part is a joke. He says it like it is, but part of me thinks otherwise. Pyla is still fiddling with the caffeine stick in her pocket. It's the first time I think I've ever appeared more calm and collected than she has. But Pyla is hard and seasoned, able to push on no matter what. Her voice unwavering, she says.
You worked on satellites prior to doing that, correct? Most of the rumors mentioned something like that.
Close enough.
The true sight offers.
So you're a smart man. The fact that you can survive out here on your own proves it. So, I have to assume you were seeking other options. Options less obtrusive than hacking away at your brain. It sounds like this procedure could have killed you, after all. Why didn't you go with one of these other options?
The question bothers the true sight. He waves a hand through the air and leans back in his seat.
They were all unproven theories, or required unobtainable materials, or relied on sheer dumb luck. This,
He runs a finger along the ridge of his scar.
was a sure thing, an immediate fix. So what do you say?
He says, looking right at me again, licking his lips.
I got a knife right on that wall over there. You bet I can have that thing out in no time. Might lose your taste, might forget your own name, or what the color orange is. But, as you put it, you'd be free.
I shrink away, recoiling from the offer. Fortunately, Pyla next to me charges ahead, ignoring the true sight's last comment.
Sheer dumb luck.
She mutters, before raising her voice and saying,
TechnoCorp claims that their chips are incapable of malfunctioning.
Yes.
The true sight agrees.
But an ionized particle.
I realize she has reached her point, and it seems as if the true sight is following along.
Would cause a single event upset. Yes?
The true sight agrees.
The chip. It's such a perfect system that a single bit out of place
would crash the whole thing.
The true sight finishes.
For just a moment, however, before TechnoCorp's intelligence is self-correct.
Then, as if the sentence does not carry an immense amount of weight, Pyla plainly says,
well, there's your flicker.
It isn't until she says that I start to catch up, realization dawning on me.
Wait, so a stray particle crashed into me?
Into your chip.
The true sight clarifies.
And caused it to glitch?
Flipped a bit, causing the thing to crash.
So what I saw?
The true sight states it dramatically.
The truth.
But, my memory?
We still haven't been able to verify its authenticity.
Pyla reminds me. I feel like I'm falling back out of my chair, but my feet remain planted on the ground. There were points where I had been desperate, resigned to the fact that I would never produce an answer to the question of the flicker. But now, Pyla has led me to this man, to the true sight, and the two have offered me the first reasonable explanation for what I experienced all those years ago. I almost well up. In fact, I do. I try to hide this even though I know the true sight cannot see my tears.
That means there will be others.
Pyla thinks out loud.
There won't be many, but there will be others.
They've got ways of keeping them quiet.
The true sight nods my direction.
Ways of breaking people. The one thing I've learned from living like this for so long is, it don't matter what the truth is, 'cause there ain't no truth. The truth is whatever they want it to be. The only way to really know if you're seeing clearly, to really know if you're thinking straight, is to free your mind.
My breath catches as I gulp, my eyes darting back to the knife hanging on the wall behind me. The cap on my head crinkles with my terse movements. Abruptly, the true sight is on his feet.
What was that?
He hisses in a whisper. Pyla and I jump up with a start. A second later, Pyla insists.
I didn't hear anything.
I wait another moment, then echo her.
Me neither.
The three of us stand around the true sight's rickety table for a few long moments, silence enveloping us. The true sight's face suddenly contorts, forehead creasing above his blindfold, nose scrunching up, the corners of his lips tugging down into a foreboding scowl. Seething, his voice muted but filled with venom, the true sight spits at us.
Liars! You've done me in. Shed on you. Shed on the both of you.
I raise my hands in protest, my voice shaking, and say,
No, wait, what are you talking about? What's going on? We didn't lie to you.
Oh shit!
He bellows, scurrying across the room, fetching his bow and arrow. He grabs for the hatchet and knife as well, then turns and heads back for the table. I flinch as he passes by, half expecting him to turn the weapons on us. Instead, he shouts.
I thought you said those things worked on Isophics tech.
They do.
Pyla shouts back, defensive, scared and confused.
I swear it.
Then how did they find us?
The true sight places a hand on the table and, with a swift, fluid motion, topples it onto its side. He quickly knocks an arrow and dives into a crouch behind the overturned table.
Who found us?
I barely hear myself ask the question. The strangeness of this whole afternoon makes me feel as if I'm dreaming, or watching a holofilm in which I'm the main character.
They did!
The true sight shouts back urgently and direly. Pyla reaches out for me when a concussive boom bursts in my ears. A roaring shockwave tears through the true sight's cave-like home, violently throwing us to the ground. I scrape my chest, hands, and arms as I slide across the dirt. The basic, flimsy furniture is blasted into splinters. The true sight is prone, completely exposed now, the table he'd taken cover behind nothing but a pile of rubble. The fire is extinguished, casting us into darkness. It is near absolute, save for a solid bar of sunlight streaming in through the front door. Or, I should say, what used to be the front door. Now, there is a gaping hole in the earth, jagged edges smoldering. Loose soil trickles in through the opening, and a few bushes outside have caught fire. A thick gray smoke begins to fill the true sight's home. A fit of coughing overtakes me. There's a high-pitched ringing in my ears. Then, all at once, I feel the pain, strongest in my stomach, then my head. It's an unusual type of pain, so intense that my mind struggles to register it. So searing hot, it feels icy cold. Amidst the chaos, I hear shouting, muffled at first, but gradually becoming clearer.
Stay down.
I know that voice.
I think in a delirious daze.
That's Pyla.
Stay down. Don't move a muscle.
Other voices join in, ones I don't know, stern and commanding.
Stay down. Don't move a fucking muscle.
Stay right there. Hands on your head.
Don't even twitch, dirtbag, you hear me. Faces in the dirt.
Another voice gets the other's attention.
Hey, where did the third one go?
I tilt my head, not daring to lift it from the ground, and strain my eyes. Peering around the room, I see no sign of the true sight. It's as if he's simply vanished. What I do see is nearly a dozen masked individuals clad in all black. A team of them streams through the jagged opening. They wear helmets, light body armor, and masks with fearsome, frightening demon-like faces printed onto them, concealing their identities. Their uniforms bear no markings or insignias, and they don't look like any officer of the peace I've seen before. The most startling thing I note is the firearms they carry. Small, compact pistols. I'd never seen a gun in real life.
Keep your eyes open. He's gotta be around here somewhere.
Another ambiguous voice calls out.
You two just stay where you are.
Someone shouts at Pyla and I.
Right there. Just like that.
The masked figures begin to spread out, kicking up dust as they move about, casting shadows in the already dim room. There is a quick flicker of movement to my right, from behind the mattress, discarded to the side in a bundled up heap. I hear a twang, a sharp whoosh, a wet slap, and a toneless yelp followed by wet gurgling. One of the masked individuals falls to their knees, an arrow protruding from their neck. The masked men react by opening fire on the mattress. I scream as they unload. A manic, furious, uncontrollable, mindless scream. I could piece my pants right now and be none the wiser. Thoughts cannot exist over the raucous sound the guns make. Feathers and straw billow out this way and that in small plumes as bullets strike the mattress. As quickly as it started, the gunfire ceases. Two masked individuals cautiously approach the destroyed mattress, hoping to catch a glimpse of the true sight's corpse. When they are about 5 strides away from the thing, another twang pierces the air, this time from behind a pile of ruined wood, the remnants of the true sight's furniture. An arrow finds a gap in the first individual's armor, piercing their side just underneath their armpit. They stumble and crash into the second individual, clawing at them as they collapse to the floor. The second individual manages to remain upright, but their helmet is knocked off in the struggle. Schwing! A whirling object slices through the air, spinning rapidly. The second masked individual is lifted off their feet as a hatchet catches them squarely between their eyes. They crumple into a bloody heap.
Don't move.
Pyla reiterates. It's unnecessary. I can't, even if I wanted to. Shock has me paralyzed. This city is a place of constant, perpetual beauty and endless delights beyond imagination. A city where everyone is content, happy, sure of themselves, satisfied with their lot in life, certain of the world around them. There was nothing that could have ever prepared me for the horrors I was now witnessing. Blood appears black as it spills across the dirt floor. Bits of bone and brain ooze from individual two's shattered skull. The air is filled with the rattling wheezes of those taking their last breaths.
You do not control me.
The true sight rages, now appearing from behind his fireplace.
For I do not see, smell, taste, hear, nor feel.
He removes his blindfold, revealing those dark, vacant pits.
For I cannot see.
He is down to only his knife, but he brandishes it menacingly. I almost believe he alone could take down the 8 or 9 other intruders by himself with it.
And that makes me free.
His last words are a whisper. He lurches forward, dashing with the knife before him, trying to close the distance between him and the nearest masked individual. The true sight is unrecognizable by the time the masked figures are through with him. His face is completely gone, turned into nothing but a bloody pulp. His body, mangled and riddled with holes, bleeds profusely, from too many places to count. The crimson liquid spills out endlessly. I could never have imagined that a single body contained so much blood. I'm weeping. Screaming bloody murder and weeping. At least I think I am, it's hard to tell. Everything sort of feels numb. Tingly. The real me seems distant, a different person than the poor wretch lying helpless on the dirty floor with more than a few guns trained on them, scenes of gore surrounding them. All I know is that, whoever I am, I don't move a muscle. I do, however, get so overwhelmed that I pass out.
The City. Reality Flickered. By Dylan Page.
Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the story. Head over to Seatback Stories to continue listening to The City. Reality Flickered.